Greetings, friends. Dr. Brunswick here, Prior of Salem Institute of Peace Studies. We got a little study here on the right to bear arms and as it relates to peace and security at the same time. Peace in schools and security in schools, peace in the populace, and a solution that stays right in line with the Constitution as written. And I think this will be an encouraging, enlightening, and edifying topic for anyone who wants to study it. Okay. Now, the text of the Second Amendment itself says that a well-regulated militia. Now, does that sound like an 18-year-old boy who went and picked up a gun because he turned 18? I don't think so. Okay, let's continue on. A well-regulated militia is a boy well-regulated. I would say I didn't notice any supervision. I didn't notice any men of the law involved with him, because militia is the highest law of the land. It's the most trusted men that a citizenry can have. Okay, they are without reproach. All right, being necessary. Continuing on, being necessary to the freedom of to the security of a free state. Okay, so for the security and the freedom of a state, this is the purpose for these well-regulated militiamen. Okay, this is the purpose of Second Amendment. I'm reading you the text of the Second Amendment itself. Okay, and it continues on. So we're talking about security of a free state. Okay, we're talking about the well-regulated aspect of the militiamen carrying these arms. Okay. So, the next section. The right of the people. Okay, so now we have, so this really makes this area smaller and smaller and smaller. Okay, it's not talking about duck hunting. It's not talking about, protecting against, a burglar. It's not talking about a bear, goes onto your property and attacks your wife. It's not talking about wolves. It's not talking about maybe, some wild animal. Even we have mountain lions, okay, all around. I got mountain lions around here. Attacks one of your animals or children or so forth, and you have to get the animal off. We got bears. We got bear season out here. We got lions. Okay, I understand how that all works. All right. We got all sorts of predator animals, and yeah, but it's not talking about that. Okay, at all. It's the Second Amendment is very clear. Militia has to be well regulated, doesn't it? I say that. This is the peaceful way. You got to be with the law. You can't just make up things out of thin air. So this is the problem. Is this 18-year-old who's classified with 9 out of the last 10 mass shooters are classified as LGBT, radical LGBT activists, okay? Activists on the extreme wing, okay? More than it's been in 150, 200, 300 years, ever 400, 500 years, even go to the Greek Empire, never known to be so radical as to say marriage is now taken over by them. Gender identity is now taken over by them. You're not allowed to teach marriages between a man and a woman. You're not overall allowed to teach that a woman is a woman and these kinds of things. Or, 8th grader in school, he's a shy person and he doesn't talk very often and he gets bullied down and told, you must use this new pronoun I chose last week, or else. And he's a bully to this poor shy kid. He's just afraid. He doesn't want to say someone's pronoun. He never says anyone's pronoun. I've never been in a school where I ever needed to say anyone's pronoun in my whole life. Okay, unless I was tattling on someone. Oh, he did it. Oh, he did it. No. Then all of a sudden you got to use a pronoun. Okay, it just is something you don't need to do. You can go shopping at Walmart. You can go shopping wherever. And you also don't need to know pronouns. You don't say, anything addressing genders. Okay. All right. So it's just a bunch of attack on people that say, oh, you don't want to know my gender. Oh, and then, so that's what they did. So screamed, abused, eighth grade boy, what was he, 13, told that he's maybe 12, still 12 and 13, could be either one, and told that, screamed and abused. So a couple of kids came to his aid and said, hey, he has a First Amendment right. He doesn't have to say whatever he wants. Now this kid gets registered as a sex offender, okay, and he's going all the way. If you just had someone pick up the phone with one of these, it's a title, I forget the number, the code, but it's now into law that he's going to be for life a registered sex offender. He goes and moves to a new neighborhood, okay? Now, let me know if I'm wrong on this, because I haven't fully searched it out, but normally a sex offender is you get in a database where everybody around you knows your information. They get, in some cases, if vulnerable people get an alert, but normally you're searching to check the neighborhood on a regular basis, so you can always find sex offenders and know where to look out and this. But there are even alert systems out there right now. Okay, so you show up to get a job, you show up to get housing, whatever. You're gonna for life. Okay, 12-year-old boy, 30 years from now, just because he was shy, is gonna not be able to go on with his life. Okay, he's gonna get denied employment, everything. Just screwed up his whole life because he was kind of shy, he never used pronouns in his whole life probably, and this kind of thing. Someone tells him you must do it and all this. He doesn't even talk to him. He has no context of even relating these so-called pronouns. Anyway, so even to the Greek Empire, whatever, the most extreme radical, there's never been this extreme ever. Even when they're put out the boys and had them dress up as girls and had them dance. These days on TV, they're told that's the way to do it. Okay, you got all these specials on Netflix that show the boys dancing and getting paid money doing strip dancing, all sorts of sex dances, pole dances, and so forth, wearing women's lingerie at 10 years old, 9 years old, and they're saying this is now, and you got even the president saying, oh, you need to give them that sex change right away, CDC. And they now have a CDC report which said that the suicide rate is so high with this group that does all these mass shootings. This suicide rate is so high that you need to quickly give them a transgender surgery, speed up the hormone blockers to reduce the suicide. But you know what they found? That was a fluke study. Only did it on a very small part of the population, and they found that everybody who got it their suicide rates went way up, but too late. The report not only went to the CDC, to all the governments in the United States, but it went around the world, okay? And they already put in policy in different countries. It said 7 times a year, and some is 10 times a year, you have to bring in transgender drag queens into the schools themselves to go in there and to party with the 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 10-year-olds, party with them these several times a year. And they say they'll reduce the shame, this kind of thing. And that it's not going to hit them like a ton of bricks when they grow up later on, that there is something a little off about it. They think that they'll grow up now solved. So it's 0.007% of the population has this disorder. Now 99%, well, they say it's no longer a disorder now because it got celebrated on some TV show somewhere. So, okay, fine, if you don't want to call it that, but still a small percentage. The last 10 years, they had a 14,000% increase in gender dysphoria among the children, the school children. So, and what's happening? You have a spike in these same LGBTQ radical activists doing the mass shootings. Check them out. They're wearing a G-string. They're wearing things only girls wear when they're doing the shooting. Okay, just check it out. All right, all over every single one of them. This should be cataloged. Hey, I mean, the CDC already says that the higher risk of suicide, give them the castration. Basically, is what they're telling them. You also have ingredients they're putting in the food that is similar as chemical castration, and so on and so forth. They're giving this as a normal thing for the kids now. So, I mean, it's not that far-fetched. You don't have to go that far. I mean, okay. So here you have um, that group, I don't think, has the intention, when they're so suicidal against their own. You could just do a quick interview with them, find out how suicidal they are. Okay, it's so simple, but that's not the point. When you bring a regulated militia, that means you're putting them for war. You're putting them for repel invasion, enforce the laws. Okay, those are the reasons for the guns. So you're not gonna, unless they're doing it correctly. Now, the other part of this whole Second Amendment ideal is that those state entities that the Second Amendment was written about, where it says security of a free state, okay, those state entities that this applies to, they had, almost every state had a religious test. And in some states, all the states had religious tests. Okay, so at the federal level, you didn't require it, but at the state level, they had it. They continued to have it long after the Constitution as being a constitutional thing to have religious tests, okay? And this, not only that, but those state entities had a different kind of constitution. When this was passed, this freedom of their state had to do with Christianity. If you read their constitutions, God is invoked all through there. For Jesus Christ, his kingdom, the advancement of the kingdom of Jesus Christ, these kind of things were all in those constitutions. For 300, 400 years, several of these states had theirs. This is our perpetual, is even before the British, was a constitution in Connecticut. And by the way, that went to all the other colonies and became the Articles of Perpetual Confederation. That means it never ended, and it's been even before the British, not even before the British, it came before they came to America. And this is our one aim of our Perpetual Confederation is the advancement of the kingdom of Jesus Christ and maintaining the purity of the gospel. And this remained for nearly 400 years, okay, as constitutional law, in the law. And then later we have, this is the further perfecting of the Union. And you can look it up. What's it talking about the Union? It always points back and goes, that perpetual confederation. Check it out. The Articles of Confederation, which is still pointing, those themselves point back to the pre-existing perpetual, what was going on in perpetuity, which was the people, okay, and that union. And he keeps saying perpetual, which meant it pre-existed, okay? So look up the word perpetual. It's a legal term. They all had their law dictionaries. They all had their regular, Webster's 1828, all these different really good dictionaries. I mean, Black's Law Dictionary. I mean, these people had great scholarly law books at their disposal. And you know what? They knew what words they were using, and they didn't just throw words out there like that, okay? These have really specific meanings. And I tell you, those were different state constitutional entities that needed arms to protect those freedoms, okay? And if they're not enlisted for that original, so that's called the de jure state. Now you have what's called the corporate entities. Totally different. They might have the same name, but even in they put it in all caps, and they put it in, there's different things even in the tax codes, where it's a different entity altogether. There's a corporate entity, and then there's the de jure republic. They were all republics. If you weren't a republic, when you joined the Union, you became a republic. And it says that each state is guaranteed a republican form of government, Article 2 in the Constitution itself. So, but a lot of them were already called a republic. For example, even California's flag today still says on it, Republic of California, okay? So anyhow, you can look it up. They were formed as republic. And what a republic really just means, it doesn't have to say republic, but republic just means a very simple thing. Representative of the public, okay? Public representation, republic, public, okay? The people are represented. The actual people themselves can vote in and have representative government, okay? That's republic, all right? And that's what you have, okay? So you want to say, so no, the republic, that sounds too conservative, whatever. Well, Democrats, that's what Democrats are, okay? Republics, all right? And unless you're like some sort of wacko, radical, so-called Democrat who's just looking for any new romantic, dreamed up new right who never existed ever in the history of the world, never even fathomed, but you want to say that's a new right so that we can overthrow and cause chaos and redistribute all the wealth in order to enforce this new invented philosophy. That's what is called mob rule. Okay, it's not law. It's not a government of a republican form of government. That's what they're protecting against, because they saw what happened in the French revolutions. There was no end. They just were hungry for more rights. They don't know what rights they want, but they're just going to go kill. And they went and they killed all the different people all around France, beheaded them and stuff. You know, it went nowhere. Okay. So it was understood everywhere that the arms of the general people, okay, you have what's called the sword power, just typically understood that, you know, the real republic power would be, okay, groups of organized whatever people in an area had enough swords. Okay, but look, this concept is now so foreign to the people today that I don't think it applies in that sense. But if they want to reestablish the original de jure republics, reinforce the original state, let's say they get all on the ballot saying, hey, we want to restore back let's say representative government, where they actually not for corporate basis of profit, but actually that there are religious tests for, just like it's always been, to hold office. If they want, and they put that on the ballot, everybody votes for it, for whatever state it is, then now that state itself can say, okay, we're restoring back to the original republics. Okay, which it said that has a perpetual one aim, and it's still perfecting that union today. It's saying, if you refer back to that original union, Articles of Perpetual Confederation and Union, it says, okay? This is what they are, is a Christian people, okay, who has representation, okay? If there isn't representation of Christianity, it's a different new entity altogether. But in any case, let's say they just, in some place on the ballot, refer back to restoring this order and restoring state laws and so on and so forth. Okay, you could say that in that sense you have this legal basis for having militia. Now you can enlist people for their Second Amendment, the rights of the people to keep and bear arms. Okay? And if it's not all in that encapsulated Second Amendment, where it has to do with freedom of the state, okay, this is the most peaceful way to go. Okay, it's to repel invasion. Okay, it says insurrection, civil unrest. These are the other reasons for Congress can call forth the militia. Your governor can call forth the militia. Even in the codes, you're part of the military department. It's called the unorganized militia. Even in U.S. Federal Code, it's called Title 10, Section 311, B2. Check it out. It says there that all of the people who are 16 years and older, all the males, are militia, period. Every single citizen. Unless they're a part of the armed forces of the military. Then they're called organized militia. So unorganized militia is every single able-bodied man. Organized, okay, got the difference? All right. So, and that they can be called for, they can be employed, they can be activated. Every country in the world has this, okay? Somewhere in their code, okay? And look, you know, in Switzerland, every home has to have a machine gun and a certain amount of ammunition. And this is an old law to protect against invasion and so forth. So it's worked for a lot of countries. They have really low crime. When they do register more regulated with their state entity, their state freedom, okay, if that's not part of owning it, if it's not for their freedom, there's really no cause in it. I don't see these boys shooting up these schools all suicidal as being well regulated, okay? There's nothing well regulated about those shootings and about this purpose of having these arms of war, okay? So if that aspect is restored, if the original state entities that aspect is for are, at least in theory, aimed at being restored, I think we'll have a lot of freedom, a lot of happy people, a lot of peace, okay? a lot more order. In every single area, you'll see crime go down, peace go up, and just well-behaved and Christian godliness and goodness coming and spreading out and blessing everyone around them. So I hope this one has been a blessing to you. And I think I covered the whole topic that I wanted to cover. These kids did not stand at all for a well-regulated militia. I hope that's clear. God bless you. Take care. Till next time.